because I come with no plan, sometimes it's a little interesting to see where I will be taken to. No plan for life, no goals, nothing to do. Nowhere to go. I had to put my Hindu chant. Wait, my dog puts his Hindu chants on before he takes a nap. I'm gonna turn this off once. Okay, I'm coming back. It's actually interesting. It kind of leads me to my next moment anyways, which is how I raised my dog in his subconscious and how we come to earth. So let's start off from the beginning of my life. I remember having a spiritual council, and I remember having a variety and choices of lives that I could live. Some were quite opulent, like the last life I had, that I could take birth in this life again. There was extreme amounts of poverty. There was lives that were very loving. And then I remember seeing my parents and choosing to be born to them. So I remember when I was in between lives, and I remember my guides telling me this is going to be one of the most difficult births and lives experiences that you've had, but it's also going to be the most beautifulest, the most connected, the one with most beauty, inner strength and knowing, awareness and consciousness, art. Also, a huge thing of why I took birth into this was this set of lineage, the skills that all of my ancestors had and who they were and what they were, the concoction of what that DNA would be embedded in me, and also what I needed to do to come here to break the genetic codes of ancestral trauma that were embedded in my light body, was a duty for me to also serve in this birth time. In no way or form do I think that we are responsible for another. I think we're responsible to self first and foremost, meaning I wasn't some savior because I was going to break some generational ancestral code. It was just my life path. So where it all began was my parents were at the Tropicana in Las Vegas. I write about this in my novel because I wrote a novel about my past life. It was a little bit, less bougie than my past life, but it was the Tropicana. It was Vegas. It's probably why later on in life I had gambling, love, addictions. I like to drink. I'll get into that, which I've been sober now for like 13 years. So I remember the exact moment I actually entered my mother's vessel. It was like, I flew around seeing her for a while. I looked at different families, like I had said. And I flew into her stomach in the third trimester, near the end. Because I remember too thinking, I can't live in her body, because she was very anxious and tense. And also too, there was a question if she even wanted a baby with my father because of their marriage and all of these situations. So it was very heavy for a sensitive energy like me to be sitting in there. So when I flew into her stomach at the Tropicana, because that's where I was conceived, not born, conceived, I remember I was just tense in her body from the beginning, because she was a very nervous energy. And so it was very hard for me to stick in there. And it's probably why later on in life, I was so fidgety and movity and all these types of things, because of the anxious energy too. I just didn't know how to sit and be still, hence where meditation and all these things came in life. So when I came out of the womb, I remember all of these flashing lights, because I remember the tunnel, and I remember I was so shocked when I came out of all these bright lights. I was like, oh, whoa, this is like more than lights, camera, action. This is more than Vegas. These lights are intense. And I remember them taking me into a back room like they do with all babies. And something just didn't feel right to me. So I don't know what it was, but that's where ever since I came to this body and this being, because I remember so many of my past lives and births, I guess my DNA, my energy was already activated beyond even the birth. So when I took birth and I saw all these bright lights and the frequency wasn't the same when I was in between lives and between lives, because when I was in lives and between lives, I could just fly as a free vessel of energy, because when you don't have a body, there's not this physical, financial, worry, anxiety, all of this. But the body is so beautiful because of all of the things it gets to experience and express. So I love being in a body too. I really enjoy it. Hence, I take care of this temple. I'm turning 43 this year. And I thank God every morning that I wake up that I get another birth, another rebirth, a life after death, experience what it's like to be Camellia, not a name, not a title, not a girl with goals, not a girl with ambitions and, statuses or things you have, but just this energy, this consciousness of love. And life is such a blessing. There's so much beauty in this world. It's so beautiful. But we're always looking for problems, because we have to live in problems, because our minds have been programmed, which is going to go back to the subconscious, which I'm going to talk about in a bit. So very early on in my childhood, because of all of the distress going on in a variety of ways, my energetic being was like this. My blood was like, and it was already like that when I came out, because, a mother is pumping those nutrients of blood into the vessel of the child. So if she's nervous, anxious, worried, all these things, it comes into the child. So the child already comes with this genetic code. But genetic codes can be broken, because cells constantly change, and our whole bodies every 7 years change cells in entirety. Yes, it happens every microsecond in the universe also, because like life and Buddha says, the only thing that's true is that everything is changing. The cells are changing as I speak right now, but I'm talking about in the entirety. So my subconscious mind probably had past lives and births too, where I had a lot of fears and tensions and anxieties and, all these things, fears of death. I probably died in different ways, horrific ways. And so then I came out of this vessel that had that energy. So I was already like this, and I was a sensitive being. So it was a combo. So as a child, I started to develop a lot of habits, unconscious habits, because of being programmed according to my environment of what I was seeing, feeling, experiencing. And also, we all come programmed. Like, we come as a blank slate, but if our parents are telling us things, or we're doing things, or we're being told things, or we're learning things, the child from the ages of 0 to 7 will keep those types of habits and patterns for 95% of their entire life. So it's so formative, those years. And if they have an amazing, gorgeous childhood and loving and all of this, if the parents don't get them, the society, the school, the parenting, neurological things, you name it, 99% of the time will program it. And programming closes our doors because it disconnects us from the infinite consciousness and self. So I started to harbor a lot of energetic fields of psychological thoughts and habits and obsessiveness due to this. But as a child, I didn't know this. This was just what my energy was being. I was very, very loving. Oh, I'm still, I know I'm feeling loving, but like as a child, even though I had all of this in me, I was a super loving child. And then there came an age in time where my subconscious, unconsciously, I was living. So my subconscious had developed so many patterns that were unhealthy and negative towards me that I was reflecting this and attracting this unconsciously in my daily life. People, places, things, relationships, finances, you name it. Health. So I started having to do a lot of work on myself because at the age of 13, when I could start doing things to get myself habits outside of my body, I love the habit, you know, like you give me 24 donuts, I eat 24 donuts, like stomach cramps, sicknesses, you name it. You know, I will want to, you know, puff something. Okay, great. I want to puff something. I never tried a heavy drug because I was really lucky to, that something in my inner being told me after I tried, you know, liquor, after I tried smoking, you know, pot, after I tried smoking cigarettes, something said to me, okay, you're in big trouble. You got some real big addictions. And I knew these addictions too were me trying to escape myself in my childhood because I had so much pain and suffering and sadness in me. And like I said, maybe past lives too. That I had to heal those roots. But I always had a deep inner knowing, something that always spoke to me. Right was when I was on the edge of going just a little bit too far off. Because I was a gambler with life in a lot of ways. Because I lived totally. Now I live totally another way, which is love and consciousness and simplicity, being in the moment. But that was an unconscious living. So I started having to heal my subconscious mind. A client of mine sent me a message before this talking about how his whole destiny is changing because of the way something so simple like me teaching him how to breathe in his body is not only making him come home in his temple, but it's also changing his whole destiny. Creativity, spirituality, relaxation, surrendering. We all have different ways of breathing, but there's only one way that's proper and correct. Sure, there's different techniques for things that you're trying to, that's different. I'm talking daily breathing. And the only daily breathing that is mindful is slowly inhaling through the nose as lightly and flowing and relaxed as you can. It rewires the neurological pathways of the brain. This is the first gut. Indians always know this. That's why now the West is just coming into this about microbes and all of this, because if your gut isn't healthy, because here's a little thing. My ancestors, my great-grandparents were Tibetan herbal doctors, and my grandmother was hugely into this. My mother knew a lot of stuff. And then I became obsessed when I was little, studying all kinds of diseases just for the sake of it. I'd get these like downloads in the middle of the night or during the day where I'd just become obsessed with certain things. I had obsessions, as I said, during that tendency, and it reflected in all ways that I did things. Just like the smoking, it was the research. I went so deep into things that diseases, you name it. Like I was obsessed with finding natural Ayurvedic remedies, looking at pharmaceuticals, ingredients, concoctions, because you can't patent nature. So you had to patent a chemical. I'd look at chemicals, I'd look at side effects, I would read studies. So it was my thing. So when you breathe through your nose, like my client was saying today, you get double the amount of oxygen because all of the hair capillaries filter through the air, the dirts, the energies, consciousness. Because remember, things live in the invisible and all of us breathe differently. Nutrients, you name it. So when the air, the prana, goes through the nose, it hits the top of the crown of the chakra, and then you just let it deeply just go all the way past your belly button to the first mind. It changes everything. Mind, body, one. You know, gut, head, one. Because this, if it's not running healthily on always, physically, mentally, spiritually, your whole universe will have a multitude of problems, because you're not living in your gut. You're not living in your instinct. You're not living right in the umbilical cord of where you were born. That's why when you see babies all the time, they breathe so properly and so deeply in their bodies. The stomach is always expanding and always retracting, and it's full expansion. So when I go in and I go into when I hypnotize people, so I put them in this deep trance. And what I first do is I do these different types of, everyone is wired differently. Some people don't want to give control, they're scared. Some people are easy to surrender to. Some people are open, but kind of scared. So everyone has a different way of how I take them into a trance, a spiritual hypnosis trance. And this is where I reprogram and rewire people's brains. Because what I do is, the ages 0 to 7, as I said before, is when 95% of patterns, behaviors, responses, reactions are going to be for the rest of the entirety of one's, universe, unless one comes conscious and starts meditating or goes on the spiritual path of peeling away the layers of the onion or the dark soul, dark night of the soul. So with these breathing exercises that I take them through to relax, they get so deep in their bodies that they can't not almost relax and fall asleep. And the whole thing is not to fall asleep, but to fall asleep, no problem too. Most of them just go in a sedated state. When I go into their subconscious and I rewire the thoughts, the frequencies, the imagery, they start telling me instantaneously, like the day after, 2 days after, and it follows suits and stays, how so many patterns, thoughts, obstacles, negative self-talk just starts dissipating. Because when you channel love into anything, love is the highest consciousness of this universe. We came in love. I am God. I am a creation of God. God created me in his vision, just like Jesus, just like Buddha. Sure, like they were born men. That's why they say become your God. If everything that exists in an element of a star exists in the human body. And if this energy created me, because I'm sorry, I don't believe this whole my parents had sex and then there was this seed and then all of a sudden, no, there's this spirit, there's this energy, there's something in the invisible, something in existence that creates this magnificence. It is not man. It's not man. And it's not Christopher Columbus. Bless you, Christopher Columbus. So when I go deep into their bodies and they're in this stage of a theta frequency, you can go in there and you can rewire existing unconscious vibrations and frequencies. And this will change your life. Because with talk therapy and all these things, we stay in our consciousness. And most of the time, these psychiatrists and therapists and whatever everything is, nothing against, I've met some amazing ones too. I'm not, but I'm saying in general, this form of the technique is what I'm talking about. It'll keep you trapped in the mind. So if you're trapped in the mind, you're trapped in your consciousness and you can't go deep into your subconscious. So it'll keep everything on the surface. The root will always be there. It's like you go to a doctor, they treat the symptom, not the root. But if the root is still always there, you're gonna have some problems because it's gonna manifest into something else. You always got to get to the root. You always got to get that whole energetic frequency aligned, clean, and pure. Otherwise, it's just going to be reflecting all these things in different ways. It's a mirror. This is a mirror. The universe of what I have built within is what I experience outside in my outside world. And I am in full, even though there is no word control, I am in full presence of my being, that I'm conscious to know when I'm living unconsciously and consciously and why these experiences are happening or not happening. And sometimes you get lessons too where you don't know why, but that's what you needed. But when you become conscious and aware, you can basically manifest as above, so within, as within, so without. You can manifest all this. This whole vortex runs on frequency and energy. So thoughts are living entities. It's a known fact. So it's, they did a thing with telepathy. I was reading on, who had it? Oh, it was in an Edgar Casey book. They had this guy from Russia, and I think the US did it. And what it was they wanted to know about telepathy, which I'll speak about telepathy after, because I do a lot of telepathy with my dog, and my father started teaching me it a long time ago, and telepathy is incredible. But back to his telepathy story. They put a guy in a submarine, a guy somewhere in Russia. They wanted to see if they could transmit thoughts. So without ever meeting each other, one underwater, one halfway across the world, all of a sudden, when the two people who were guarding and watching over them went and brought the messages together, they were exactly the same. It's a known fact too, even if you look at things like, if you look at things like the fact that the mind, when it's blank and it's pure consciousness, can transmit energy through thought, because everything in this universe is made out of energy and matter, like Einstein says. So it's gonna live. It's gonna transmit in somewhere. Like there was a famous king, I said in one of my other videos, that said, plant a thought in my head and I'll kill you. Thoughts are real. People can plant thoughts. Be careful what people plant in your mind too, and what you allow them to plant. So when you can go into the subconscious mind, you can change one's destiny. And then you get to a point too where you can actually self-hypnotize, trance yourself. So you don't even need a source. The whole thing of why when people come to me, I say is, look, I'm really happy. My whole goal is for people to come to me and time to go, because I don't want to, my whole thing is to make you your own God and guru. I didn't come here to be your God and guru. I don't know more than you do. I know nothing. We're just walking this path together for however long it may be, a day, a moment, a year, 10 years, who knows. But you are your soul master. And when you master your mind, you master the universe. So an interesting thing that I did is, because I don't have children or any of these things, I've had a lot of animals. I started working with my father, and me started doing telepathy years ago, where him in India, he would say to me, okay, I'm going to send you thoughts. And then we wouldn't talk for a while. And then we would message each other, literally the same thoughts at the same time. Or we would send each other topics of things on videos at the exact same time. So we were working this, and then we would know, or I would bring up topics when we would talk, it would be at the exact same time. So it just started getting the energetic codes, because his mind is so blank, like a canvas. And mine's blank unless I get inside my mind, but I generally know how to master it, or to take myself into another life, death, rebirth, so I can blossom and fly again, caterpillar to butterfly. So when I started, I wanted to try it out on my dog with his subconscious, because animals have a huge frequency of unconditional love. Every animal, even wild ones. And I didn't want to get him neutered. I wanted a certain disposition, and I wanted to train him through mind thought. So what happened was, he's almost 2 years old, never tried to touch another female dog, likes to sniff people, but that's it. He knows how to respond to me by look, because I program thoughts, because I spent so much time with him out in the wild, in the bush, in the middle of nowhere, in different experiences, clearing our minds, meditating together, that it allowed him to be in his animal instinct, and let me be in my animal instinct too at the same time. Hold on one sec. Okay. Let's draw a card. I was also really lucky in my childhood that my parents, because they didn't raise me on any religion, I didn't have any of that patterning or programming in those regards. So it was a really, as difficult as the choices were that I experienced and went through, it also made me who I am today. It made me an energy that works towards compassion and kindness for self, for universe, environment, community. And the love that I know that my parents have for me, now that we have healed so much from where we started, of their patternings and programmings and mine and generational and, you know, living in the universe. It's just been such a beautiful journey, because we're authentic to each other. there's nothing but pure love. I could have ran away from my situation, my circumstances. A lot of people that have trauma or anger towards their parents or disruptive childhoods, or even if they have great childhoods, they just don't keep that bond in today's everyday busy world. It's not people's priorities anymore because of the world that we live in also. But for me, I knew this was one of the most important experiences that I needed, not only to transform where I came from, myself, my family, in all ways. So I have so much gratitude for existence, for all that it bestows upon me. Every moment is a gift. And it's not this, oh, I'm sad, oh, I'm happy. It's this, it's living in balance and being grateful. It's knowing that you're here for such a short time. And if you don't get to know thyself, you're just going to keep coming back. And not only this, look at every rich man, how diseased the mind is, the body is. If only a rich man also has, in most times, the opportunity to find this, to take the time to find this God, because they find the futileness in all these things. They accumulate all these things and they notice they're just still so unhappy. Whereas when you're poor and you're just looking for food. So now I have the tripod, but this whole data thing and storage has cut my phone off from what I was saying from experience and poor. So when you haven't experienced things or you have desires and you haven't tasted them, you will constantly want what's on the other side of the fence till you have it. Till what you see what's on the other side of the fence isn't what's on the other side of the fence, what you thought you want or what you thought it would bring in the inner being. So, unless you're a Kabir. Now, Kabir was a famous Indian mystic who was not born like Buddha or Rama or Krishna, a king. He was born like Jesus, which is an ordinary man of the mans who lived within the commoners, above and below. And Kabir was an incredible weaver, and even when he achieved enlightenment, everyone said, well, we'll keep doing things for you, we'll do this for you, we'll do that for you. And he said, no, I don't want you to do anything for me. He's like, I just want to be as I am before, a weaver. For that's what God made of me. That was my kismet. That was my fate. This is what I do. This is what I enjoy. I just want to keep on being an ordinary man among the masses. As soon as you want to get special or you want to be special, it's going to create a lot of problems in the ego. Desires and the addictions and attachments. If it comes naturally, it comes naturally, sure. But if you're seeking it, or you're looking for it, or you need validation, it'll eat you alive. Like Kabir said, when I was searching for money, money was running from me. Now that I'm running from money, money is running to me. When you become the totality of the universe, all of existence, it reflects all back to you. But the thing is not to get attached to it, to let it flow like water. If it's there, it's there. If it's not there, it's not there. Being is still centered. You enjoy it, and you enjoy the other. And you can watch the mind that goes back and forth telling you, oh, this is better. Oh, you need this. Oh, you deserve this. It's about experiencing the totality. Whatever existence gives you, you should feel blessed for. Even if it's an experience that you don't want, thank existence and learn consciously from the experience so that you don't repeat it again and it becomes a habit. Then you're living unconsciously. Okay. Ooh, number 30. That which never dies. That which never dies. Remember each moment, what you're accumulating. Is it going to be taken away by death? Then it is not worth bothering about. If it is not going to be taken away by death, then even life can be sacrificed for it. Because one day or another, life is going to disappear. Before life disappears, use the opportunity to find that which never dies. That which never dies. A woman's husband died. She was young, had only one child. She wanted to commit sati, which is jumping in the fire and the pyar, with her husband. But the child prevented her. She had to live for this small child. But then the small child died. Now it was too much. She went almost insane, asking people, is there any physician anywhere who can make my child alive again? I was living only for him. Now my whole life is simply dark. It happened that Buddha was coming to the town. So people said, you take the child to Buddha. Tell him that you were living for this child and the child has died. And ask him, you are such a great enlightened person. Call him back to life. Have mercy on me. So she went to Buddha. She put the dead body of the child at Buddha's feet and said, call him back to life. You know all the secrets of life. You have attained to the ultimate peak of existence. Can't you do a small miracle for a poor woman? And Buddha said, I'll do it. But there's one condition. She said, I'll do it any condition. Buddha said, the condition is you go around from the house, town to town, in each door, and you find a house where no one has died, and bring me some mustard seeds. The woman could not understand the strategy. She went to one house and they said, a few mustard seeds? We can bring a few bullock carts of mustard seeds if Buddha can bring her son back to life, but we have seen so many deaths, even in our family. It was a small village and she went to every house. And everybody was ready to give the seeds, but the condition was impossible because everybody had had death. By the evening, she understood that whoever is born is going to die. So what is the point of getting the child back again? He will die again too. It is better for you yourself to seek the eternal, which is never born and never dies. She came back empty-handed and Buddha asked, well, where are the mustard seeds? She laughed. In the morning, she had come crying and now she was laughing. And she said, you tricked me. Everybody who is born is going to die. There is no family in the whole wide world where no one has died. So I don't want my son to be brought back again to life. What is the point? Forget about the child. Initiate me into the art of meditation so that I can go into the land, this space of immortality, where birth and death have never happened. This I call an authentic miracle. Cutting the problem from the very root. Cutting that to the root. So there's not even a scar anymore. It just becomes invisible, dissipates into nothing. Going so deep into totality, into the abyss of nothingness, that you understand that it's the mind with all these notions and thoughts and habits of what it thinks it wants and it desires and how this universe runs. But when you live in the invisible, that's when you live in the unknown of life. That's when you dance with existence and everything is a surprise, because you're so present, living moment to moment, that everything is new. And in the beginning, it may be a little bit scary because man is fearful of change, even though that's the only thing we know is true. But then you get addicted to it. It's not that you're addicted to seeking a new experience or adventure, a new high. Your energetic field is so connected to the divine that it's this inner being of such fulfillment, such contentment, that everything that comes into existence in your energy is so blessed, so connected, so present, so loving, so trusting and surrendering to existence, like a child, all the way down to the root, connected in all ways.